Hello everyone, welcome back. So this is my sewing table at my shop. So just to give you kind of an idea how big this table is, it's over 25 feet long and over 12 feet wide. So this is where I do my upholstery, and to be honest with you, most of the time this bench is too small for the things that I do. We're going to go ahead and I'm just going to show you this Princeton Chorus here, what I was talking about, cover, and the seams, they're okay on the edges, and when you wrap it around, I think that would look real nice to have the seam on it. My problem is in the corners, these would have to be parted, so basically you fold these inside out like that and you sew it from the back and it makes a clean dart, but then you still have a seam. When you dart that bunching, you'll have a seam. So, and the same with down here, like where the two edge trim pieces come together, there's a seam, and I would have to literally grind this cabinet out because the speaker grill still has to fit in here, and this material is really thick compared to Tolex. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna finish this or abandon it. I was doing it in this like royal blue or navy blue color, so that's what it would look like finished out. Around the edges would have the white stitching. Now see, this isn't a bold stitch, that's just your standard stitch. So I did not use the bold stitch on this because it was giving me a lot of problems. So anyways, I'm not sure if we'll continue on with that project or not, but this is the snapback that I was telling you about, and it is a huge roll, and this one's just about gone. It's usually about 3 times that size when I order it, again, because it's so expensive. This stuff's like $30 a yard. And it's so heavy that it costs a lot to ship. But this is what I was talking about. It's got like an 1/8 inch of rubber and a really thick, I don't know, I wouldn't call it a cloth, but it's just a really backing on it. And we use this on the bottom of floor mats and trunk mats, stuff like that. Something that's got to stay stiff and flat. This stuff might even have went up because it's lasted me so long that I've had that roll for probably a good 7-8 years now. But anyhow, coming around over here, so this is my sewing machine. The white part is 7 feet, and you actually have, they call this a long arm. It's a 206 RBL 30, and you have 30 inches between the base here and the needle. So if that gives you any, or 36 inches I got there. I got 3 feet between the needle and the base. So if that gives you any idea about how big that sewing machine head is, and it weighs an absolute ton. It's all cast iron. So anyways, that's my machine. This is the material that I made the guitar mats out of. It's just a marine vinyl. It's kind of reflective. I did an AMX. I don't know what model, but it was an AMX car. I did in this, and I did a lighter silver. It was a 2-tone. This was the main color, and the silver was the inserts in the seats and the door panels and all that. So I like this material, so I ordered a few extra yards of it to do some things of my own. I'm also going to make one out of this. This is called a Lante. This is, again, it's a vinyl, but this is extremely super soft. This is like, if I had to explain organic material, I would say this is more like lamb or deer skin. as far as the feel goes. It's really super soft and flexible, whereas this stuff here is a lot more resilient. It's not as soft. It's not going to scratch a guitar though. That's why I made it out of this. But so yeah, those are the materials that I'll be using here, and this is the 1/2-inch foam that we will be sewing through. We can also use a 1/4 inch, but you're not going to get that the puffiness. So I use the 1/2-inch sewing foam to go between that snapback and this material when I sew it together. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut this video off and I'm going to cut out some pieces. I got my measurements. The guitar mat at home I think was 44 by 18. When you're sewing through this stuff though, when you have a 1/2-inch foam underneath of it, every time you sew down, it pulls the material together and you lose length and width with every single pleat. You lose about an 1/8 inch. And I don't know if you notice how many diamonds were in that guitar mat, but every pleat equals an 1/8 of an inch lost, front to back, left to right, depending on which direction you're going, sometimes both. By the time you go both directions, you do lose it from both. But anyways, long story short, we'll have to cut this oversized and do a lot of extra sewing so you can account for that shrinkage. And then what you do is you mark out your 44 by 18, and then you sew on that line so it locks in all the stitches, and then you glue it down to the snapback and trim it out, and then you cut another strip of this about 2 inches wide and as long as the mat is around, from one corner all the way back around to that corner. And then you sew it down face to face, and then you flip it over and around and you sew it down one more time, and you got to do it without seeing the stitch on that. So a little complicated, and we'll get to that after I cut some pieces and stuff. So what I'll do here is save you guys the long boring part of standing there watching me cut and sew for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it's going to be. I'm going to stop this video and I'm going to do a time-lapse video. So we'll start with this video, I'll do the time-lapse, and then we'll do a conclusion. So go ahead and just sit back and watch. This should be real quick on a time-lapse. So let me get set up here. All right, well, goodbye for now, and I'll see you in a minute. Hello everyone. Well, welcome back. So we just finished the time lapse. You guys can see the process that I went through in building this. I was having some more issues with my machine. And if I'm standing here now, you guys can kind of get a good idea how big it is. And I was wrong. It's 30 inches from needle to here. And it's a little over 36 inches. But anyways, yeah, my thread kept screwing up on me, so I had to stop a few times, and then my glue gun, it's got a clog in it. Normally, when I hook this up to the air and I spray it, it'll paint like paint, you know, it'll spray it down like paint. So I got to take that all apart and deal with it. But what I use is, I get in this 5 gallons. Stay put. So I use this for vinyl tops on 1960s, 70s vehicles when they had the vinyl tops on them. So I use that on a lot of stuff that I want to stay permanent. So as you guys seen, I'll explain the process. So rough measurement of that was, I think, 44 by 18. So I made it a few inches wider and longer, and by the time that I sewed this, I was lucky that I didn't make it any shorter, because I made it 2 inches longer and it was exactly 44 inches when I got done sewing it. Because every time you sew through this 1/2 inch foam, you're pushing it down and it's pulling the material and making it shrink. So you always have to start off with a much bigger piece. Sew up your pleats and then mark out what you want. Sew that down, cut it out. Then you glue that to this right here, and you use the heavy glue. I also forgot to mention, when I showed you this, this is a temporary tack glue. So you'll see people trying to fix their headliner with this. It won't work, because this is a temporary glue. And the reason I use this, especially on seat covers, if you have a bend or something in a seat, you got to have the material stick to the sewing foam and not move, for one, you know. And two, if you are in a bend on a seat, okay, you want that glue to give loose, because it can cause a wrinkle. And even when I use this lightly, sometimes I'll get a wrinkle in a seat if it's got a compound curve in it, and then you got to use the steamer and the heat gun, and then hopefully, if that don't work, just being in the sun, if it's a boat cushion or something, it will relax over time, because this stuff doesn't last forever. It's a low soak in, and you know, it's just a tack glue. So I use that just to hold my material in place while I'm sewing it. The stuff in the spray gun, it's contact and it's permanent. So another reason that I use that contact cement to glue my pleated section to the stay put is so I don't get big air bubbles and stuff like that, and it stays nice and flat. Then I have to cut strips, as you've seen, and you sew that down, face down like that, and then you fold it all the way around. And then I changed the stitch from white. I was going to do gray, but I was having a lot of issues with the gray. So I went back to a full nylon thread for marine. And basically, you don't want to run over this part, because you'll see the stitch and that ruins the effect. But you got to bury the stitch in between that and this material. So I went around it twice. I normally only went once. But I seen a couple spots that had a skip stitch, and that was probably because my tension was set a little tight. I just got done doing a boat top, and the material is a lot thinner. So this is a boat top material. I could actually probably use this on that amp, but well, that one's thin. Our boat top material is a lot thicker, but yeah. So anyways, I had to go around it twice, and I changed it to black so it would disappear. If that was white, then it would stick out, and I think it'd look terrible. But it's been quite a while since I made these. I only made 4 of them so far. Like I said, I have 2, my dad has 1, and a buddy has another one. And my dad absolutely loves his. We made his out of sheepskin. So it's a burgundy red sheepskin, and I just put a couple pleats in it, and it looks just like this, but red sheepskin. So he loves his, I love mine. It took me 2 hours to make this start to finish, and I probably had about 5 or 10 minutes of downtime in there. I took a phone call and had to screw with my glue gun, but I didn't lose too much time on that. So Rick, here is your mat. Oh, the other thing too is I did not use the bold stitch. If you guys noticed when I showed you the Princeton Chorus amp, I didn't use the bold stitch on that. I tried to, I started to, and oh, it's a long story, but to set the machine up again, to go through this thicker stitch is a nightmare. So kind of give you an idea, I got all those are the bold stitches. So a normal stitch is real thin. Okay, so that's your standard stitch. Now this would be your contrast thread right here. I guess I'll use the orange one. And you can see, oop, don't want to roll that way. So you can see, let me get back here so it focuses. All right, you can see the thickness difference. So when I go with this bold thread, I have to change my needle, and we have to reset the machine, and it's a very long process. Just the video to set that up, it's 2 parts, and each part's 4 hours long. And it's not like you can go in there and just set one thing. That's the big long story about it. It's like a clock. Every single piece has to move and synchronize with the next piece. So you can't just go in and adjust one thing. You got to start from the beginning and work your way all the way through the machine and set everything up. And my wife and I had enough of that, so I've been sticking to the regular thread. So Rick, you did not get the bold stitch, unfortunately, but it looks just as good. It's just the thickness doesn't stand out as much. So, but there you go, Rick. We'll get that out to you. We'll do another video home packing it up and comparing it to the other ones that are at home. And I appreciate you reaching out, asking about it. Maybe this is something that we can make viable. I'll have to figure out what my time was worth for doing this and the material cost, and then obviously we'll sandwich it up like I was talking about. I'll cut some cardboard before I leave, and when we get home we'll tape it all up, pack it up, and we'll get it sent off to you. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if this is something that you guys are interested in having at home, let me know. I can make it in any color you want. I mean, let me give you a quick idea here how many materials I actually have. So the possibilities are absolutely endless, okay? All these books have hundreds and hundreds of colors in them. Every single one of these. All these books here. I mean, I just have a vast amount of stuff. Matter of fact, I wanted to show you guys this here. I wanted to cover the amps in this stuff. The problem is it's $3,000 a roll because you have to order it by the roll, not by the yardage. But this stuff is really cool. Different cloths, and this is all stuff meant to be outside, so it's extremely durable and, you know, weather resistant, stain resistant. It's just too bad you have to buy a giant roll, and the roll is so big and astronomical it would take me the rest of my life just to use part of it. So it's a shame that we can't get any of those colors there or materials in the yardage, because it's kind of like a tweed, like some of these woven ones that they're not actually completely woven. They have a backing on them and stuff, but you get what I'm saying. Those would look really cool on an amplifier, and they're thin enough to where it would be worth it to ditch out for a seam a little bit if you had to. So anyways, yeah, so the possibilities are just absolutely endless. We got all different kinds of camos and different ostrich prints, and I mean, you name it. These are actually leathers here, but just try to give you an idea. I mean, just pulling those cards out. Those are some funky browns, but you get what I'm saying. There's thousands and thousands and thousands of colors to look through. And here's the, these are the contrast threads. So this is your really big, thick, bold stitch. So we can order a special color for that. Only problem is, when you order a roll of that, it's $200 to $250 a roll for some thread. So anyways, if you guys are interested in getting some guitar mats made, or eventually I am going to figure out how to cover some amplifiers and make it look really good. So there you go. If you guys want a guitar mat, let me know, and we will put these up on Reverb. And obviously you'll have to allow me a week or two to make it, because even though it only takes a couple hours, I have to have the time to stop and do it. So we can do custom orders. If it's something that really takes off, maybe I'll just start pre-making a bunch, and you guys can buy one that's pre-made, or you can order a custom color. Either way, I think it should be about the same cost, unless we get a really crazy special material, because they really range in price and can get really expensive. So all right, well, thanks for watching. I guess I rattled on way too long, and I don't know what else to say. We'll pack that up and get it to Rick. Thanks a lot.